Jake, I'm playing like a really cool game right now.
Oh my god, dude, kind of itching for a new game. I've got the money loaded on my eShop. I got the virtual cards.
Yeah.
I got the okay. I'm dying. Tell me.
It's under embargo. I can't talk about it.
A critical error is an error which the OS cannot reasonably ignore. Jake Steinberg is a streamer, writer, and certified yapper. Complimentary. Peter Hunt Szpytek is a YouTuber, journalist, and certified yapper. Derogatory. These are the things they cannot reasonably ignore.
Today on the Critical Error podcast, we are talking about FOMO. That is, of course, for the uninitiated, the fear of missing out. Peter, how affected by FOMO are you as a consumer, as an individual? Does it get to you?
Pretty much never. I mean,
no, that's not true. That's not true.
Not
Come on.
always. Because so here's what it actually is.
Yeah.
When I feel like the FOMO creeping in on stuff, I think I am pretty good at like assessing if it is something that I'm actually interested in or not. So, for example, Tomodachi Life comes out a month ago or at this point, and everyone's talking about this game. Everyone's posting their screenshots. Everyone's saying, "Oh, it's so fun! It's so fun! It's so fun!" Yeah. And I'm starting to be like, "Well, dang, that was not a game that I was particularly interested in," but everyone's saying it's pretty good. But I was like, "Let me wait. I'm gonna wait on it. We're gonna see." And then now that it's been like I said, a few weeks, I'm starting to see some bits and pieces about it where I am like, you know what? Actually, that has held some purchase in my mind a little bit. I might actually be interested in this. Especially because my wife asked me about it, and I was like, "Well, if you want it, then maybe we'll do it." But
that'll do it.
That will do it. But largely, I would say I am pretty uninterested in FOMO, just because we've seen how the dance goes. You know what I mean? Like this is not a new topic on the show of saying like a game comes out, everyone says it's amazing, it's a masterpiece, it's the GOATY, and then no one's talking about it in 2 weeks. You know what I'm saying?
I do, but
are you affected pretty heavily by it?
So here's my take. Part of my take coming into this episode is that I wanted to ask the viewer to leave a comment about how affected they feel they are by FOMO.
Sure, okay.
At this point, before what I'm about to say next. So hit your space bar, pause the video, type in there, go, Jake, out of 10, this is how much FOMO affects me. Maybe like a 6.7.
I'll say for me, if I may, like a 3.5, 3.5, I would give it.
Okay. Wow. So
I think it's pretty low on for me.
Part of my contention with this conversation is that I do think that everyone is severely affected by FOMO.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and I think that we see FOMO as like one thing, but it's actually like so much of the video game culture. Yeah.
Oh, this is true. I think it's at the core of like how we even talk about games. You know what I mean?
And I think that the truth is that when you look at something like a movie, there is an element of, okay, you have to see this when it comes out because that's when it's in theaters.
Right.
And there's something there. And with video games, you really don't have that at all. And if anything, what you are ensuring is that you get and oftentimes a worse version of the game because of post-launch patches and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So, so it's like, okay, I need to be there for what could potentially be the worst version of the game on day one. I have to be there.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Here's my contention. I would say that maybe every single person who is listening to this podcast, who will ever listen to this podcast, who ever arrives at youtube.com, critical error, whatever it is, in this past year has bought a game on day one. Every single person. I don't think that there is anyone here who could ever end up here who has not purchased and played a game the day that it came out.
I think that's a fair assessment, yes.
Thank you. And for that to be the case, I am sorry. The FOMO has gotten to you. It has.
Yeah.
Because there are too many incentives, I think, for waiting for a game in terms of the financials of it, in terms of the libraries that we have that we know are going fettered, and I think that okay, you've got something.
So here's something interesting. You bring that up because I think that's true. I do think that most people who are like actively interested in video games, I think do play games the day they come out.
Yeah.
But you know what's interesting? I think that there's been an interesting shift over the last, I'm going to say like 5 to 7 years of like this pre-order sentiment. And I think it comes from things like Cyberpunk or whatever, like dropping and being like totally busted. And everyone's like, well, this is what happens when you pre-order games. Maybe we shouldn't be pre-ordering games and whatever. But that sentiment does not exist for buying games on day one. You know, which I think no one would argue is like a bad idea. I think the reason people say you shouldn't pre-order is because it's like, well, what if the game is totally busted and broken and you don't know and you've already spent money on it, whatever. And so you have to like wait for reviews for that to happen. But like, what I guess what you're saying, what I'm saying is I think it's very, very true what you're saying, that the core of that so much of the core of like gaming culture is centered around the idea of like FOMO, playing things immediately as they're happening, just because so much of the culture is like we got to play it day one.
We don't even have to kind of like assess this based on vibes, because we know this to be the case. Like the vast majority of any video game sales are coming immediately.
Yes.
And then kind of like the funny layer to this, though, is that if you examine the kind of like the trophy data of any game, we also know that the amount of people like finishing games, sometimes even getting a significant percentage of the way into them, is shockingly low.
Yeah.
So there is this have to be there for that first moment that I really do think we can materially assess is part of the culture of buying games. Like it simply is. And I think that's impossible to deny. But then you have to wonder about, so to back up for a second, I think that there are a lot of different ways that we can take this conversation. And I think that maybe why is FOMO so prevalent in the video game space is a potential avenue. I think that there is a kind of audience that the prevalence of FOMO produces, and we can kind of see that across
certainly
the video game landscape, right? But then I think something that's interesting to me is that oftentimes when I have brought this up in the past, there ends up being this conversation that emerges surrounding privilege and economic privilege and the ability to kind of like participate in video games that people kind of come back to over and over again. You something came to mind with this.
Yeah, so this is actually like you know, when you ask about like my relationship with like video game FOMO, this is one of the major things that keeps me from making these purchases based on FOMO is the fact that like I just straight up can't. And I'm very lucky, I'm very privileged, of course, to be able to play a lot of like new games early based on my job. But like there's a bunch of stuff that like I'm interested in that if I don't get a code for, I just won't be able to play it until later, you know, until like it's either on sale or I am able to save up money and whatever. And so like the easiest thing for me to combat that sort of feeling is to be like, I just straight up can't afford this, you know,
course.
you know, you look at what you do have and whatever. But I think that is a big component of sort of the culture of it.
Oh, yeah. And I think as I kind of started this conversation, the idea that FOMO is present in a lot more than what we initially think of it as, I would say that beyond the kind of desire for the day one purchase, you also have things coming into play here about accessibility and digital ownership that I think are also conversations about FOMO. And
100%. Because you think about like some of these online games like go up, right? And the whole like the conversation with any like online multiplayer game when it launches is like, hey, probably not going to be around forever. You know what I mean? In the sense that like, well, it probably won't be in this, like in the totality of time, right? But like, is it going to be around for even 2 years? I mean, Highguard was what, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, right? And that was earlier this year. You know, you talk about Concord, same sort of deal. People are looking at Marathon and saying like, how long is this thing going to be around? I mean, it's good, but like, does it have the player base to support it for, you know, 5 years? Unclear. In the same way that Destiny does. Unclear. So I think you're 100% right about this sort of thing where like a lot of the time, like the digital ownership, the like idea of if these games are going to exist forever or be available to be purchased forever is a huge question.
Oh, yeah. And It's funny. There is this. What is a battle pass if not FOMO monetized? What is
so true?
The constant conversations we see about this game comes out and then the DLC is held back or it's being drip fed. It's being, these are also, I think, permutations of FOMO. And I think that there is a modern video gaming perspective that has emerged that is frequently demanding access to everything immediately. There's a difference in I'm thinking a little bit of like Pokemon Champions in my head when I'm having this conversation, but like there's a difference between looking at the pricing structure of something and calling it exploitative and somebody who says like I should automatically be able to afford every single thing that I want. And no other entertainment medium really produces that exact expectation. You don't have people looking at why isn't every single Blu-ray that Criterion puts out priced around my personal budget? Why are Broadway tickets they don't cost what I want? Concerts are not accessible to me. But the game discourse, I think, treats the personal inability to participate as evidence of an ethical failure by the medium itself. And that, I think, is like really the way in which like FOMO, I think, intensifies existing economic anxiety. Because, and this is something people miss, I think, the economic anxiety is not because of the games. It's not because the game went from $60 to $70. It's not
certainly
because
not.
the price of the console changed. Right. It is instead pushing on existing economic anxiety from the larger culture that we live in. But now, and then kind of turning things to the media landscape, because of the media and social landscape that we live in, participation in video games feels socially necessary to like being a video game player.
100%.
So the culture is constantly telling you this is the conversation. It's like what you said, all of the Tomodachi Life reviews coming out. This is what everybody's posting about. This is the moment. This is where community is happening.
Yeah.
It's like, it's right now the NBA playoffs are happening. And I'm a big Sixers fan. The Sixers are in the playoffs. They're gonna win the whole thing. No big deal. And it's like somebody being like, Jake, you cannot watch the game. You cannot post about the game. You cannot participate in this kind of sports fandom unless you pony up the bucks and get it. Like, that would suck.
Yeah.
And I would understand why that would suck. So it creates this alienating feeling in a deeper way, especially online in our contemporary culture, where your kind of like personal identity and your consumption and your posting, all these things kind of blend together.
Well, I think it comes to the fact of what you just said too, but this idea of like personal identity gets so caught up for so many people in like fandom, right? And so it's like, well, if I'm a huge, I don't know what's coming out, I'm a huge fan of Returnal. So I have to play Sorrows right when it comes out. That's what's on my mind, right? So I have to play Sorrows right when it comes out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I have no idea. What else is coming out this month?
Think about the Batman, dude. Think about Lego Batman's coming out.
I'm a huge Lego Batman fan.
They've got that digital deluxe edition, and you get a few days early unlock. You get some costumes.
That's the thing about it, though, right? Too, like, is the early unlock for games and stuff for pre-ordering, buying the deluxe edition, whatever, and like that all feeds into it too. And then socially, you're going to your social circles to talk about these games, whatever. And if everyone else has played it and you haven't, it's like the push to want to. But like, there's so much about the culture of gaming itself that it just like pushes people into that. And it's so frustrating, right? Like, because hey, it is difficult to be able to spend that kind of money so often. You know what I mean? If you are someone who's playing every single major release in a year, like, I mean, that's a lot, it costs a lot. And so it's very difficult to know sort of like how to combat it. I will say I have a surefire way of combating FOMO for me. And it is anytime anyone is talking about something that is exclusively on the personal computer, I'm like, oh, cool. I don't need to worry about this.
Yeah, you're right. That works for me too.
Yeah, everyone's talking about what's the game that's like pink and blue titanium court?
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
I think that's it. Yeah.
Everyone's talking about this game. I'm like, what is this?
No, me too.
Oh, it's only on computer?
Out.
Yeah, okay.
I completely
sorry.
black. I that game doesn't exist in the world I live in.
Exactly.
I'm happy for you and your reality.
There are games like that happen, but also then I was thinking about the the Steam controller stuff. Out of nowhere, all the reviews for the Steam controller all dropped. And everyone's talking about, oh my gosh, I got to pre-order this thing, and pre-orders went up, and it was limited, and not everyone was able to get it, whatever. And I'm seeing everyone talking about it. And I was like, oh man, it would really suck for me if I cared about gaming on my PC at all. you know?
The funny thing about the Steam controller too is that it's a controller.
No, and that's the other part of it too. We're like, listen, I'm sure the ergonomics of it are great. It seems like that's what people are saying about it. That hey, this is a great controller. I'm happy. I'm happy for the ergonomic heads, right?
Yeah.
You know,
it's a little odd for me to feel the FOMO that I was seeing demonstrated online over a controller, and maybe, and I'm not trying to judge anybody.
No, I'm in the same way.
We all get our jollies, but I understand wanting it, but like needing it, I think is odd.
I 100% agree, because I, for the most part, have not played a game in the last, I don't know, like decade, and been like, damn, this controller fucking sucks. You know what I mean? Just
sure.
I think at the end of the day, they're all at the very worst passable. You know,
is there something there about being someone who has the Steam controller?
Oh,
Is that like, okay? You know how people get like the new iPhone?
Yeah, and then they have
the
new
iPhone's
iPhone.
like a symbol. It's like yeah. Is there something there in gamer cred that's like similar to it? Surely, right?
I'm sure. Yeah. Here's the problem. I'm the wrong person to ask.
As strange as it sounds, yeah.
I'm the wrong person to ask because I'm not plugged into the PC culture of it. So like, I'm sure that PC people.
I would love to see a comment from somebody on this video that's just like, Jake, actually there is an incredibly large amount of gamer credibility associated with the Steam controller, and when I see somebody that has the Steam controller, I am filled with envy at what it must feel like in their sweet hands.
We had technical difficulties. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. I think, I'm sure there is something to do with the fact that it is a status symbol, that like the Steam controller is a big deal because it comes from Valve, right? Because it's like one of these like major
interesting. Okay.
Things. And also I think because there is so much excitement surrounding the what's their console going to be called? The Steam box? Steam Machine?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do.
Yeah. I think there's excitement surrounding that, and the fact that that isn't here because of, you know, whatever economic and issues that are going on, whatever, within like the production side of it. I think that there's a certain level of like, well, if we can't get the console, we can at the very least get this controller. And I think so part of that is like the excitement for the Steam controller. But I do think I bet that there is some sort of status of having this controller among PC gamers, because it's like, well, Valve is the PC gaming company. You know what I mean?
No, you're right though, that it is carried over hype for the console. It's like a preview of, you can start imagining in your head using that console, which I also, I won't press in on this too much. I also question the hype over, but that's neither here nor there.
Right.
Yeah.
So you mentioned something though about the idea of like hype for the console, whatever, and that just had me thinking though too about like I think obviously, like very obviously, the idea of like hype plays into FOMO, right? Like getting hype for something means that when it comes out, everyone else is playing it. The hype, the excitement leading up to it leads to people wanting to play it because they'll feel like they're missing out if they're not. But something else that I think is kind of interesting is sort of like the role that like media plays in FOMO, because I think a lot of I think one of the main draws for people to follow content creators and stuff like that is the like vicarious living, you know what I mean? About like, well, I can't go to these luxurious, you know, preview events and whatever, but this person gets to go and I can kind of live through them. And I think it plays on that that fear of missing out, right? A little bit, because it's like, well, I wasn't going to get invited to the, you know, event, but here's this person who is going, and I get to watch what they're doing and talk about it by proxy of this other person. Does that kind of make sense? Do you think that plays into it?
Of course, but I almost think it goes like a little bit deeper than that too, because I think that we don't have to retread old ground, and I think it's this kind of thing where we know that there is a propensity in games media to favor coverage of the next thing.
Yeah.
Over
100%.
Yeah. So the newest thing, the next thing, that's more important than anything. And I think that goes beyond games media. That's just everything.
Right. 100%.
The idea kind of underneath that is that because that's the content that drives clicks. And a lot of people kind of stop the conversation there. And where I would want to push a little deeper is maybe that's what drives clicks because that is the audience that we built.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's worth talking about. But like, just for anybody who's maybe unfamiliar, I think that like you know, in mainstream games coverage, but also in something as like if we think about friend of the show, Dusty Go-Goat, who has a YouTube channel, the Hidden Power Podcast, it is this, Dusty and I were actually talking about this morning, how kind of the constant emphasis on what is the next Pokemon game going to be? When is the next trailer going to come out? You are actually training your audience to value the feeling of anticipation over experience.
Yeah.
So when you spend years anticipating games, weeks speculating, and then a single day reviewing, that is going to create a kind of person that wants a particular kind of feeling. The game becomes old almost immediately.
Yes. No, this is so true though too, because, and correct me if this isn't what you're saying, but like, because you have just the one day of talking about the game, it's like, well, I can't miss the one day that we're all talking about the game. And I think things like review embargoes play into this as well, right? Where it's like, obviously no one gets to have the game usually when like review embargoes go up. Usually that is pre-release, but it is like, well, we're all going to be talking about it at this one time. And then to me as the consumer, it means I need to get this game immediately so I can refer back to reviews, whatever. I mean, that's kind of what I do. I don't know if most people do that.
No, of course. But it's just anybody who's familiar with the gaming landscape at large can tell you, like, oh, okay, here's something we say all the time. The algorithm rewards immediacy. What does that actually mean? And I think what that means is that we're in an ecosystem that will privilege certain types of content over others. So the things that you will see are first reactions. You will see guides. You will see ending explained. You will see outrage, and you will see leaks. What you won't see a lot is like closely reading, reflection, revisits, reconsiderations.
Yeah.
Could you imagine a review comes out for a game, and then 2 weeks later, the person who wrote the review goes, actually,
okay, so my wife had this idea for a movie review podcast that she is like not gonna do it, but she was like, I want a podcast that would do this. She's like, I love seeing a movie in the theater with a Diet Coke and a big popcorn, and if I see a movie in that under those conditions, I'm gonna really, really like it. But then she's like, but I was thinking, like, what if someone then did a review again in like 3 weeks after that, where they then, now they've had time to sit with it and maybe they watch it again, not in those conditions, and then they talk about it there, and like seeing if there's a discrepancy between the glitz and glamour of like the way excitement and experience actually sort of like impacts the way we feel about, you know, art and whatever. And I think like,
dude,
wait,
hold on, I want to stick on this
please,
because great art holds up to multiple viewings.
Yeah, of course.
And we've kind of referenced the idea of review inflation in the past, and how these games come out and it's like everything gets, you know, the 8 or 9 if it's of a certain budget and polish.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you weren't reviewing the first time playing the game, if you were reviewing the second time playing the game and you didn't have the spoilers to carry you didn't have the novelty to carry you, what would your review of this, and how many of these people are ever even playing a game for the second time because of the kind of go nature of covering video games? So, and dude, that you talk about something that would tank review inflation like that.
Yeah, because then the second time playing through it is the stuff that you start to be like, oh, this sucks. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's funny you say that. So I this past weekend I played Resident Evil 7 three times.
Right.
And had a great time with it. But on that third time, if you could believe it, there were some sections where I was like, all right, okay, got it. You know what I mean? And obviously the game isn't meant to be played that way. But I do think that by exposing yourself to something, you know, multiple times, you are starting to see the parts that stick out as like, I don't know if this all works, right?
Yeah. And I think it also is a good practice to kind of ward off what I would say is maybe just bad criticism or bad critical practices. Like something that kind of gets on my nerves sometimes is the it made me cry as like a attestation to the emotions that the movie or the game was able to evoke. It made me cry.
Yeah.
And I'm like, because there's a part of me that's like, you know, if you start up a movie and it starts with you see a sweet dog and the dog looks at the, you know, and then somebody comes over and kicks the dog.
Yeah.
And that makes you feel bad. Like, I just think the ability to like inspire emotion is maybe not always a compliment to the storytelling in the way that people think it is.
Yeah.
And and I think that like the upon repeat viewings, the kind of craft of a work becomes more and more visible and tangible and legible. Whereas the first time you see something, it is so reaction focused. And I do think a lot of our media and a lot of our fan culture around these things is reaction focused, which then creates a kind of viewer who believes that the purpose of reviews is to be a reaction, and then that person has an insane amount of friction when they encounter an actual review.
I think this is 100% correct, and I think that like spoiler culture is spoiler culture is like huge in like all corners of culture, but like I don't know, to me I think it is so immensely important in gaming culture specifically, and I don't know why. You said something, was this on the podcast? Maybe this was on the bonus pod, which, hey, you want to talk about FOMO. Oh my gosh.
We have been fearing for your life.
We have been on a heater of bonus pods over at patreon.com/criticalerror for $5 and up. You can gain access to all that. Again, an absolute heater. This week's was excellent. We have 60 video games that we believe are the best of all time. That we both brought 30, and it was a wonderful conversation. But I think you mentioned, I think this was on the podcast. Like, we care so much about story in video games, but people only want to talk about the beginning and the end.
The beginning and the very end.
Yeah.
The entire story is premise combined with ending. That's what people think story is. Yeah.
But like people in games are so fixated on spoilers. And I think that comes back to the idea of fear of missing out, right? Like if you don't get to react, if you don't get to have that first viewing that is untainted, right? Then it's a huge problem.
And that's the thing about FOMO, is that it's more than about the anxiety around buying a day one game. It is so much more holistic than that, because there is a audience that FOMO produces. There is an idea, and I need people to really, this is like the thing I feel most passionately about that we're going to talk about, I think, in this episode, is that I think that there is, in combination with the media landscape and the just like the video game culture, all of it is aimed towards creating an ideal consumer who is permanently restless. Let that sink in, because I think FOMO culture is trying to create a video game player who, one, simply cannot sit alone with a video game. Cannot replay a game, cannot fall behind, cannot ignore discourse, cannot miss updates, and cannot leave the kind of like social media feed, and it's all consumption. And
100%.
That's kind of like the goal of FOMO, yeah.
Yes, and I think that, I don't think that there's like some like secret cabal of these game companies that are like Ubisoft and Microsoft and whoever are all sitting in a room. And they're like, how are we going to do this? But I think that like it is this thing where they have all noticed like, oh, hey, here's the practice that works for all of these AAA games. We're all just going to continue to do this. And then now we have this like unified culture of consumption. And it comes from, I think it's exactly what you're saying, people not wanting to miss out on this stuff, and it pushes people to buy and buy and buy and buy and buy and buy.
If you have an underdeveloped media landscape, you will be reduced to a consumer. And I think oftentimes people in this space often feel like, I feel like I'm being treated like I'm just a consumer. These pre-orders and these digital deluxe versions and all of this stuff make people feel bad. And it's funny because so I mentioned earlier that there's like that version of the Lego Batman game, right? And if you
the
buy
deluxe
this
one,
yeah, whatever it is, and it's like, I don't know, $20-$30 extra, whatever. And you get the game early access, you get some DLC with it, whatever the hell it is. And I know that every time this kind of thing pops up, there is a really powerful outcry from people being like, this is predatory and bad and manipulative and all of this stuff. And not to be a crazy person, I think people know where I stand when it comes to my progressive point of view.
Sure.
This is something that, like, I have to do some real soul searching about, because I don't see asking people for a little extra money to play a game early as a crime. I guess I just don't. I
know what you're saying, but my question is, like, do you not see that then as these companies playing into the things that we're talking about here that are making people less interested in being more actively thinking about this sort of thing?
So, yeah, but I also just don't think it's the company's job to do that. I think that it is the job of the public.
Sure,
and
yeah.
I think it is the job of the public, and particularly the media, to create the kind of well-rounded consumer that would have a particular reaction to these things. But I don't think we can expect the company to just do that, to take care of it for us.
Because they have no interest in it and no incentive in doing it. Yeah, that's true.
Right. And I also just want to say that I don't think every pricing structure is equally predatory. And I think that that's something that people often charge it as, that I just, like, don't agree with. Because if you have an expensive edition of the game and it comes with the soundtrack, nobody's gonna get mad at that. Okay. And then if you have an expensive edition of the game that has, like, an art book or maybe the DLC pass or cosmetics, it's like things people may or may not get mad about. It's like a sliding scale.
Yeah.
The few days of early access is one that really does bother people. And I guess for me, all of this stuff is so materially and meaningfully different from, like, games that have pay-to-win systems, things that have
that's true.
Gotcha economies, that have, like, a grind that I would call gameplay hostile, and also just kind of, like, psychologically coercive manipulation. And I gotta tell you, I guess I just, like,
no, there's a difference there, and it's difficult when we treat them all like they're the same thing. That is true,
because I think, like, the premium edition, in my mind, and maybe I'm just ass backwards about this, is less about buying the game, and it's more like you're subsidizing the development of the game in exchange for perks. And I don't know if that is necessarily unprecedented, because we've always had collector's editions. You see, like, deluxe Blu-rays. There's VIP concert access. There are tiers. If you go to a Kickstarter, on our own Patreon, there are levels of support. And I think that, like, the early unlock is just saying, I'm willing to pay more to participate sooner. And I don't think that is, like, holding a video game hostage, which people frame it as.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that what you're saying makes a lot of sense. But I also do understand the, like, irritation towards this sort of thing, because
me too. Do I like it? Like,
right,
no.
I'm not saying that you're out here being like, and all of this is really good and I love it, right? But because I understand the hostility towards it, and but I would agree 100% that, like, I think sometimes we in the gaming culture tend to conflate a lot of things as being the same when they are not, and understanding the, like, levels of, like, okay, something is a problem, but is it, like, a huge problem that is, like, the thing we need to die, the hill we need to die on? Yeah.
I guess truthfully, my question is the reason that this 3 days early unlock access is seen as so devastating, as I know that it is the reason for that because 3 days early in our FOMO formed gaming culture is a lifetime?
Yes, it is. Because here's the thing. Okay. I think about the fact that, like, I know people, I've never done this, I don't think. But I certainly know people in my life who have, like, taken the day off work the day a game comes out. Oh, yeah. Right? So they can sit down and play it for 8 hours. Let's just say a full day of work, right? And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, by the way. And I'm not judging anyone who does that. But I do think...
I think it's a great way to spend a day off.
What I wouldn't give, right? But I do think that because of that, I don't think that's uncommon is what I'm trying to say. I think that a lot of people do that sort of thing. And so 3 days of early access to a game or a whole weekend or whatever is a lifetime, because you have people who are going to say, you know what, I'm actually taking that whole time off of my whole life so that I can sit and I can live in Night City. You know what I mean? I can be Raul Coley or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I do think that people are using that as like sort of ammunition for fandom of like, hey, I've actually already beaten the game, because 3 days is plenty of time to play a significant portion of the game, right? And so I do think that that is a significant amount of time. And when everyone else isn't getting in, I think that creates that vacuum of sort of tension and like irritation and whatever that FOMO is like breeds on, you know?
Yeah, and I do want to, you know, we're talking about all this stuff, and I can already like hear the comments coming in, and it's like, oh, Jake said that the higher cost of this edition is subsidizing the game's development, but that's not true, because where is that money going? Is it going into the hands of the people that made the game? I'm gonna say probably not, but like,
yeah,
is it? You know, we always have this conversation about the video games are getting more expensive, and I guess to me, if I can still get a $70 version of Grand Theft Auto, but there's a $100 version collector's edition, or a $120 version collector's edition,
yeah,
is that, as a consumer, the worst outcome? Is that the worst trade that we can make? And I guess I just don't think that it is.
I would
because
agree.
It's completely optional. There's this idea about like release dates, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's like, I could see somebody in the comments being like, well, here's the problem. The game is done, so they're just withholding it. But like, release dates are artificial as a concept.
Yeah.
So like, it's not, so I just have a hard time seeing, but anyway, you were going to ask.
So with Grand Theft Auto is the great thing, because that's going to have, I'm sure,
something you can spend money on, yeah.
I'm certain, and there's going to be tiers to it. 'Cause, you know, you see like Assassin's Creed does this. Like, hey, Assassin's Creed's out, and you can buy it for $70, or you can get the digital deluxe edition, which is $90, or you can get the Founders Pass, which gives you all this whatever for $150, and it goes up from there, right? And I'm guaranteed that Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to have that as well. Does that ever sway you? Those, like, do you ever like even look at those sort of like digital deluxe editions and stuff like that?
Oh, dude, I think I'm gonna buy the Batman one.
Is that so? Is that right?
Yeah. Okay, so let me give you the breakdown.
Okay.
So the standard edition of Lego Batman: Legacy of the Dark Knight is 70 bones. Nothing surprising there.
Yeah.
And then 90 bones for the deluxe edition, which does come with the 3 days early access.
Okay.
But it also comes with what they call the Arkham Trilogy pack, the Batman Beyond pack, a music pack, and the Mayhem collection. Now, the big thing in all this, I don't have to give you the whole roundup. It's a bunch of costumes, you know. But the important thing is that one of those is what I presume will be a DLC pack that you can buy. That it has a special set of missions where you play as the Joker and you break out of Arkham Asylum. And I'm like, all right, I'll play that. A little bit of a throwback to the original, if you remember, taking you back here. Batman Arkham Asylum, I believe, had PlayStation exclusive content. That was, you got to play as the Joker in some challenge rooms, which at the time was so sick. I'm sure it made people so mad that it was PlayStation exclusive for no reason.
I feel like they stopped doing that, didn't they?
So I had this conversation with myself recently, and it's going to be a similar thing with the Lego Batman game. I just want all of that extra content, and I know I'm going to enjoy the Lego Batman game. I don't feel any weirdness about throwing them an extra $20 to be totally honest with you. But I had this conversation recently, actually, with Saros, one of the first PlayStation first-party games that I noticed did this early access thing where you could buy a more expensive version of the game.
Right.
And the only reason I even considered it was that day that the early access went up, I was sitting at home.
Was it one of those times where it was like, I just have the time for this today? Yeah.
So I considered it because I was like, man, this will actually fit into my... Now, ultimately, I did not end up buying it. Instead, I went to the Nintendo eShop and I bought Dungeon Crawler, a awesome roguelike.
I watched the trailer for this. This looks cool.
Yeah. Look that up if you want. $15 on your Switch, have the time of your life. But it's just about it kind of like fitting into my life.
Yeah.
And I think like in my head, it was this thing where I was like, okay, I could kind of pay a little bit of a premium now to make this
for convenience
work for me.
Yeah.
In a very specific way. And I guess to me, the thing that makes this okay is that I feel that there's no smoke screen. I feel like everybody knows on both ends exactly what's going on. You know when the game is coming out. You know when the early access period is. There's no confusion here. There's no manipulation. It's simply, this is it. Listen, is every single person going to have the time to start playing this game on a fucking Wednesday?
Right.
Probably not.
Right.
Like probably not. So even the period in which they're asking for you to join into that early access, I find to be generous a little bit, to be, because it's like, how much time were you really gonna, who even needs that? How many hours are you gonna play between Wednesday and the Friday it was gonna come out?
Right.
So I don't know. So yeah, so I guess I just look at it and I don't see it as this like criminal thing, and it's hard for me to see it that way.
Yeah. I know what you mean. It's funny. I don't think I've ever bought like a digital deluxe edition. I've had some, because sometimes when you get codes for games, you will get the whatever edition.
That's right. Yeah.
But for me, it's because like I would be, I think, significantly more interested in getting like a collector's edition or something like that than the digital deluxe editions, simply because I find digital rewards to be largely worthless. Like some games will be like, you start with 2 skill points, and I'm like, am I gonna get those eventually in the game anyway? Like, yeah, okay, so we just get to have what early, you know what I mean? Like, or it'll be
that stuff's silly. So
Yeah.
I think typically an argument that you could use when you look at something like the Lego Batman game is that, Jake, there was a version of this game that
had all that stuff in there.
Had all that stuff in there,
but they put it behind the wall.
Now it's this. Now I think that creates this weird question where I think we could all maybe acknowledge that because of the way the economy has gone, video games should be a certain price, but video games have largely been able to stay at a similar price.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think that there's something there. I don't think it's necessarily that you have to pay extra for all of the content. You could just reframe that in your head as, I actually get to pay less for some of this less meaningful content. A version of the game that has, you know what I'm saying?
I do, and because I think that's a part of it as well, right? But I also think that gets away from the idea of like FOMO a little bit, because at that point it's just like about like digital editions and the cost of games and whatever.
Sure, but to take it back to the FOMO thing is that I think like, okay, this is gonna, I need everybody to take this walk with me.
Okay,
so
I'm coming.
Borderlands 4 comes out.
Yeah.
And I really like Borderlands. I know I like it. I know that I'm going to want to play all of that game, the DLC, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So they've got their launch edition that has all the DLC bundled in it. And I go, here's the money. I'm in. I'm a fan. I can't wait. Part of what's going on there, I think, is this acknowledgement of the gaming moment and how you can hold attention and how long you can hold attention, and how after the game comes out, if you don't give people the option to buy into the moment now, it becomes much harder to sell them on the content coming out months down the line, because you no longer. So I think that's why it's here. I think the reason that these things are even ever offered half the time, and why like the Lego Batman edition contains the DLC that's going to come out later, I think, is because of FOMO. It's a product of, we need to sell them on the excitement of this now, because we're not going to be able to sell them on the excitement of it in the future.
100%, because it's like, when that DLC comes out, like you've already moved on to something else, and so like I don't know. I mean, unless the Lego Batman fandom is just so rabid, you know what I mean? That is when that comes out and they're like, if you aren't playing the DLC, oh my gosh, you're missing out, right? But by
that's
saying,
how I'm gonna feel.
Well, if you don't have it, but like I don't know if that's the conversation that's happening, right? And certainly not like the prevailing mood, because it'll be everyone's moved on to what 007, whatever that game is, or what else is coming out down the line. And so I think that you're 100% right that like they are trying to capitalize on that idea of like, it's kind of like early FOMO. It's like, yeah, but you won't have the DLC when it comes out, and you're like, do I even want that? You know what I mean? And you get to make that decision on your own, and this, that, whatever. But I don't know. I think that like it is just so interesting that it feels like the games industry is built on the back of the fear of missing out, and so many industries are. We mentioned that at the top, but like I think that at the end of the day, video game culture is so reliant on this feeling, and that's across in fandom spaces, that's in like content creators, that's in like traditional press, like all of that is just so 100% dedicated to this feeling. Because also, like, I don't know, do you ever play a game that's like not in the like zeitgeist and you're like, what am I doing right now?
On Discord, we're playing through Pokemon Gold and Silver right now. We're doing a little book club, talking to everybody, and a consistent thread I've noticed is how much fun people are having, just kind of like playing something in this little bubble, divorced from zeitgeist and online discourse, and just kind of like playing it in a little community on their own. And I think what I want to emphasize for people is that it is not wrong to enjoy the communal aspect of playing a video game. That totally makes sense.
It's good. It's fun.
And like half the fun of like being a Sixers fan and then being in the playoffs is talking to other people about it and trash talking the haters.
Yeah.
And like that's part of the experience, and I completely understand that. But I think that like we need to be able to access that experience in a way that is also kind of divested from constant consumption.
Yeah.
And so like creating a little book club or having a little group, having somebody that you can do that with is huge and can go a really long way in kind of divorcing you from all of these forces that are kind of constantly trying to pressure you into buy the next thing.
Yeah.
Now, the other half of this though is that whenever this comes up, there is a kind of knee-jerk reaction from a certain cohort of people that's like, well, it has to be this way. We have to cover games this way. We have to get the clicks. We have to do this. We have to do that. And it's funny, man. This same group of people, and I think you know this well, will constantly say, oh, God, there's no money in this business. I should just become a YouTuber. But then let's go deeper.
As if it's so easy.
As if it's so easy, which is very funny.
Yes.
As if knowing how to edit videos makes you good at it. Very funny.
Yes.
If we go a little bit deeper here, there is YouTube content that oftentimes cannot rely on the embargoes and the go and this thing and the next thing. You got something.
So this is the thing. So when you say but critical error, we have to do it this way. I would say in the current landscape that is set up, yes. But at the end of the day, I think, one of the things we were talking about earlier is but we taught people to be like this, and we taught people to be like this. And it is through our actions as people who sort of drive these conversations that we have created a system that is like this. And of course the companies are going to do what they're going to do, but that they're going to do that regardless of how we behave. And by playing into their hand a little bit, we've created a culture of people who are only interested in this stuff. But also, when we say that people are only interested in this stuff, that's categorically untrue. You know what I mean? Of course, people are interested in the newest whatever. But at the end of the day, you go on YouTube.com or you go on in some of these like fandom spaces on Reddit, whatever, and you will notice that people are not always talking about the newest, biggest, whatever, because some people don't always have the newest, biggest, whatever, especially in their fandoms, right? You look at like let me
give you one. So on my Twitch, I've been streaming through the Xenoblade games.
Yeah.
And I'm streaming through these games. They are not in the zeitgeist.
Right.
They are not. Nobody is talking about these games. And it's like, I'm out here streaming these games, playing them as if they're brand new, talking through them, whatever it is. And this gets to the point, me streaming these games on my own, on my Twitch channel, I'm not bothering anybody, to the point that Nintendo is emailing me going, okay, Jake, you've generated enough attention by this point that maybe we want to work with you. We're going to send you products provided by Nintendo, Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, to do a couple of streams on Twitch 4. And that is a manipulating of the space that was not reliant on the,
Two of my biggest videos that on my YouTube channel are for, about games that are not relevant, right? One of them was about Wolfenstein, which I think you could argue, say, but the things you were talking about, relevant, political, whatever, and like, yes, that's true. That was not there for my Dead Space video. Do you know what I mean? That, hundreds of thousands of views. And it's like, okay, we have to talk about this stuff. We have to play into the FOMO stuff. And I just don't think you do. I think in the current landscape that is set up, yes, because that's like the audience that's been made. But I think people are interested in games that already exist and are not the newest, biggest, whatever, because that's what fandom is, right? Exactly what you're saying.
Dude.
Like, there's not a new Xenoblade game right now. So what are those people looking to? What are people who love Xenoblade doing? They're looking at, whatever's going on.
And I think, again, to my initial claim of FOMO is in everything, I really want people to hear this. When a review comes out for a new game and the reviewer calls it game of the year or a game of the year contender,
Yeah.
that's FOMO.
That's also what that is. Yes.
That's FOMO. That is
Yes.
100% FOMO. It is, you need to play this so you are part of the conversation that we are going to have now throughout this year and particularly at the end of the year.
Well, so that's the other part of it too. It's persistent, right? Because of course it's like, well, you need to play this now, but also by saying that sort of stuff and by making so much of gaming culture surrounded, centered on the idea of like game of the year and like what was the best game of this year. As soon as we get to January 1 next year, boom, it's over. And so yes, there's the immediate, you need to play this right now, but then there's also the, if you missed it, you do have a window of it being relevant for you to play this thing. And you can sheepishly say on your podcast or, whatever, like, oh man, I went back and I finally got around to playing Resident Evil Requiem.
Right. 3
months later, and you go, oh, actually, what everyone said about it is good, and then you just move on. But at the very end of the day, at the very least, is you played it before the game of the year discussions happen, and then now you get to be part of those discussions. And whether that's in your friend group, whether that's if you're part of Games Press, Games Media, whatever, it is there is a deadline for these things, and by saying stuff like, oh, it's an early game of the year contender or just a game of the year contender at all, you are putting it in that category of you need to play this before January 1 when it will be irrelevant and dust.
Well, and I think maybe one of the more uncomfortable parts of this conversation is simply that the anticipatory form of media and content is like the lowest resistance form of coverage. To put it simply, it's the easiest form.
It is. And
I think like, actually on Blue Sky, I was posting about this today. I complimented what I thought was a really well-composed review of Tomodachi Life on Kotaku.com.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that a kind of selfish privilege of as a reader of Kotaku is that they do not get review copies of games from Nintendo. So if they want to produce a Nintendo review on their website, like the one I did for them for Kirby Air Riders, they have to kind of make that happen. They have to go out of their way.
Yeah, it's all elective.
Yeah, and it comes out not only after the review embargo, but like, much like far after launch, because they have to go out of their way to actually play the game after it comes out.
Yeah.
And I found that review on Kotaku for Tomodachi Life actually like broke from the formula. It actually had something that existed in the culture of the game, of like the world that was playing the game. It wasn't just it was so much more like real to me.
There's something about this too. Marathon. I don't think Sony gave out codes for Marathon, or if they did, I don't know if they were activated. Right. Yeah, because it was an online game, and so reviews for that either were skipped completely by these publications, or they came out after the fact, after people were able to like entrench themselves in that culture, which I think is even more compelling because it's an online game, so it is the culture of the online space that they're cultivating, right? And I think that tends to make for more fascinating reviews because, as you said, like, you have people who have the time to sit with it and not only just sit with it and like be able to like take their time with the game and how they feel about it, but like they get to be a part of like an active part of the community and feels like, what is it actually like to play this game? Not in the insulated game review community. Something we've talked about before, and I know you have specific feelings about, is the Animal Well community, right? Because Animal Well, it's like a Metroidvania game, but it also like is kind of cryptic in the way that it dishes out information. And I was playing that game pre-launch, and I was playing it with like, I don't know, 60 other people who were like reviewing it and whatever. And I was in a like dedicated Discord server exclusively to like these people. And we were all sharing information, and it was an incredible experience. And it was entirely unreplicable because when it comes out,
more importantly, if you talk about the perspective of somebody who is reviewing Tomodachi Life a month after it came out, that is a more unique perspective than the one that is built the same by every reviewer before the embargo. And what you're talking about there is not just that the review coverage of Animal Well made a more positive experience. It actually made one that was far more singular. It made one that everybody was talking about the same thing because everybody had the same given circumstances around their review. So and again, this is maybe the most uncomfortable part of this conversation, is that I do think that the next thing coverage being the lowest resistance form is because it simply makes it, look at it this way. If you're constantly talking about announcements and trailers and rumors and release dates and leaks and showcases and first impressions, that requires, it just does, I'm sorry, a far less sustained form of intellectual labor than like deep criticism does. And that's not because like the writers are stupid. It's because the ecosystem incentivizes speed and volume far more than depth and reflection.
Yeah.
Because a trailer, for example, a trailer by design gives you a hook and a topic and an audience and keywords and urgency. So the work is pre-packaged.
Yeah.
And like once the actual game arrives, real criticism becomes much harder. And I think that that is the biggest challenge in front of us, is that by using FOMO as a crutch, you are able to produce content that is far easier to build out.
Yeah, because it's a different skill set, right? Because it's like figuring out how to capitalize on that FOMO, how to capitalize on the trailer, or like a quote unquote analysis, whatever, versus saying, well, my audience doesn't really actually care that much about wanting to sit down and like do a close read of a game or do a, deep dive into this, that, whatever.
Well, and nothing is at stake. Nothing
Right.
is at stake.
Right.
You never risk being wrong. And that, I think, is why, like, I find speculation culture to be like so frustrating sometimes, is because like people are always just doing like here's what we know so far, here are our predictions, and then like when the thing finally rolls around, we never roll the tape back. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
We were just like killing time with each other, and it's like low risk writing. And I think that even reviews have turned into low risk writing as a result of the FOMO crutch, as a result of the kind of writing that people want, because this is, the reviews are essentially the FOMO test. Is this worth missing out on?
That's true. No, that is true.
And I feel like you can see that in their construction. So there is less of a invitation to the writer of a review to put something of their own at stake and to stand against the crowd and to say something that a lot of people are going to disagree with. And instead it becomes this, here are all of the elements. Are you okay with skipping out on this?
Right. No, I think that's fair. And I think that the way reviews like specifically like list those elements and discuss those elements is built in that way as well. Right. About like, this is the best looking game ever. You're like, well, do I want to see the best looking game ever? Man.
Something about just something that's hitting me about like these games are in development for so long, and then they get 3 days of discussion.
No, it must be the most frustrating thing in the whole world.
Like it's really
this is how I feel like in a different way about like YouTube videos.
Yeah.
I work on a video for a full month, and then it goes up, and it pretty much has 2 days for YouTube to decide if it's a success or not. You know what I mean? And it's like, could you give me 4 even? Like 4 would be good at the very least. I completely agree.
And I hate to say this, but like spiritually, to be a little stupid.
Sure.
I think like spiritually, I think a culture that's obsessed with like the next thing eventually loses the ability to experience anything fully, and everything becomes transitional. And you have like games that exist as objects of anticipation for the launch, and then the game exists as an object of anticipation for the next launch. That Pragmata review where the headline was like, this is Capcom's next big franchise.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck, bro. It's like, that's, and I think, again, spiritually, so not to be, I open myself up to easy criticism. I would say that there's a particular tragedy with video games, and I think you see this evidenced by YouTube, is that games specifically are actually extremely well suited to slow criticism. And so the revisitation, the retrospect, the having like a long experiential kind of, there's just we're missing out. The real fear of missing out is all the discourse we could have that we're missing out on.
I think it pushes us to view games as content.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, and not real works of art. But yeah, I want to hit again the FOMO of our bonus episodes. Jake, patreon.com/critical error. There's a bunch of great stuff in there. It feels so funny to do this after the conversation we had.
They should have destabilizing fear of missing out. Again, I came to this bonus podcast with 30 games. You came with 30 games as well.
Yeah.
And we just chop it up for like 2.5 hours about 60 of our favorite games of all time.
And would you believe that there was only one video game on both of our lists?
And you didn't even notice that because you introduced that game and it was shared to even out the list.
Did you add another one?
I slid in an extra one.
Oh my gosh. So it is 60.
I was looking at the list, and when it was 59, I was like, this is embarrassing.
Wait, what'd you throw in there?
So I did it during our discussion.
Oh, okay.
You didn't even notice. You didn't even. I
love that. I love that so much. Yeah. So if you're interested in that conversation, patreon.com/critical error. Become a $5 member of the nation. You can join our nation. We are going to secede from the United States at some point here, I think.
Ooh,
although I think it's multinational at this point. But I want to give a special shout out, though, to the members of the Jake and Peter tier on our Patreon. I want to say thank you to 1, Andrew Bulkar, 2, Evan Snee, and to Robert Quesada. These are people who are supporting us monetarily at the highest level, and it means a lot to us. We're going to Summer Game Fest this year. Part of our ability to do that comes from the support of people like Andrew, Evan, and Robert. But it also comes from members of Critical Error Royalty, Jake. People who you have crafted a sound effect for.
And I'm really proud of the support that we get on our Patreon, because it allows us to do things like we're bringing a video producer to Summer Games Fest that we pay. When we have a guest on the bonus podcast, like we had Giovanni Colantonio a couple of weeks ago, we are allowed to pay him for his time, for his appearance on that podcast. And so the support on Patreon is actually materially functional for what we're allowed to do with this podcast.
It's funneled back into what we're doing, and I think it's cool.
Now, the sound effect this week is, of course, after we finish recording this, I will be heading on a 3-day camping trip with my wife. So I will be roaming the free music available to me on the internet to try and find the most camping sound. I don't know what that's going to be yet.
Maybe you maybe you layer a few things. Maybe you put a little campfire sound, the crackle of a campfire. Is like slow, like campfire acoustic guitar, you know what I mean? Kind of.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah, love that.
And so let's go ahead and listen to that sound right now. Once again, having your name read in the weekly sound is a perk for $10 and up members of the Critical Error Nation. Thank you for supporting the podcast. I'm talking to Mergly, Non-Existent, Alex Sims, Thick Dick Mystic, Pinky Oats, Shin, Kale Chow, Mitch Dyer, Cole, Sam Woods, Jared Cousineau, Jacob Richter, James Pierre Reed, Danny Disaster, Connor Truelove, Robert Quesada, Mayro, Evan C., Ansel Trait, and Andrew Bolkar. Thank you again for supporting the channel, and for everybody else, patreon.com/critical error. Get in on the nation.
Truly delightful, Jake.
What a camp.
Hey.
Now, to close out this episode, we of course share a pre-written piece, and I will say I'm doing a little bit of a pre-order bonus right here with this pre-written piece, because what I'm doing is simply advertising a big piece that's going to appear on my blog this week.
Oh, okay.
So I wanted to give a tease, because this is a highly anticipated piece from some people on my Discord. And I thought it would be fun to release the essay in its totality after releasing this tease on
this is literally exactly what our episode is about. That's so fucking funny. So give us the the 3-day deluxe edition pre-order bonus.
That's right. So this is the beginning, the first page of my extremely long and exhaustive essay about Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Okay.
Here we go. Xenoblade Chronicles is a masterpiece. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 makes me regret video games. I thought it was important to be upfront. about my position in all of this. See, I streamed the entirety of the first Xenoblade Chronicles game on my Twitch channel. I was shocked to discover an exceedingly successful story in the Golden Fleece formula, with clear thematic intention, characters drawn in ways that birth sentimentality. It was a joy to navigate the twists and turns of Shulk's adventure. As I do on my streams, I broke down exactly what the story was doing as I played, how scenes scaffold ideas, how they apply pressure, how they cash out in ways that deploy narrative inevitability and surprise in equal measure. Xenoblade Chronicles understands how to generate meaning. I could not wait to start the sequel. From a distance, it looked like my kind of game. I perceived a stronger emphasis on love and romance. The driver blade system surely would dramatize something about close bonds and relational identities. I knew, too, that the game was divisive. I assumed this to mean that it took huge creative swings and would be bold in its craft. After about an hour of playing, my heart sank, crumbled, and never recovered. The profundity of my disappointment was the most coherent feeling the game produced. Nothing is important to Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It accumulates without direction. Characters are introduced carelessly. Nothing is demanded of them over the course of a 60-plus hour campaign. They do not clarify under pressure. They do not sharpen through conflict, because both of these forces rarely ever arrive in a way that changes anything at all. The result is a kind of hermetically bloated, anesthetized sprawl. The story keeps moving, but the people inside it do not. Now, a brief pause, as I am, of course, reading this off of a Google Doc, and for some reason they were like, Jake, you need to log back in. I'm back.
Oh, you're back? Okay, good.
One more paragraph. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 does not feature a story that develops. It extends, it stretches forward, adding material, content, lore, without ever reorganizing around it. Rex, Pyra, Mithra, everyone ends exactly where they began, exactly who you thought they were when you first met them. They show up with a clear shape and spend the rest of the game confirming it. All we gain in the process is more information. But what of feeling? There you go. There's your tease. There's your tease.
So I have not played Xenoblade Chronicles or Xenoblade Chronicles 2. But I have played Xenoblade Chronicles 3. A game
that's my next one. Starting soon.
A game that I quite like.
We'll see. I can't trust anyone. I don't know.
But in hearing this, I'm like, I think you're not. I don't know. I mean, like, it's been 4 or 5 years at this point since that game came out, so I don't remember it 100%. But I have a fear that you are gonna really fucking hate that game.
Can I tell you something really crazy that happened to me last night?
Please.
I was in my bed. Before bed, I like to read comics, and I was reading on my tablet a manga called Witch Watch that I've been making my way through.
Okay, Witch Watch? As in like witches?
Yeah, as in witches. So the general premise is that you've got this guy who is kind of the bodyguard of a witch, because she's really important.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he comes from this long lineage of ogres. Ogres don't look like they do in, they're not cartoony. They just look like a human now at this point. But then he makes all these friends. So you've got like a vampire guy and a werewolf guy, and they're all living in this house watching over the witch, being her bodyguard. Okay.
Fun.
So one of my favorite things about this comic is that you can tell when they got like their series order, because it was all very focused, and they had a story and there was stuff going on. And then at some point they just decide, okay, we can no longer make progress. We simply must move laterally. So,
yes.
Which is, but a lot of things do this, and it's bad. This does it in a way that I'm like, this is why episodic things are good, actually. It calls back to a time where TV shows had like 30 episode seasons, and there would just be like things where you got to have fun.
Where 4 episodes like quote unquote matter, and then the rest is just some characters doing some slice of life stuff and whatever.
Yeah. So you'll find that there are several issues where the main character talks about his love for vintage jeans.
Okay.
Because the author of this clearly has a love for vintage jeans.
Yeah.
And he just like goes into like the years long process of breaking them in, and it's awesome. It's awesome. So, anyways, there was one of these goof issues in Witchwatch, the one I happened to read last night. It was about Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Okay.
So the main character is, they go to the grocery store and they get this little like, I think it's a chocolate, and it comes with a sticker. And it's kind of like a Pokemon. So there's like all these different creatures on the stickers, and they have like goofy pun names. But you'll notice that the kind of like gorilla character is holding an axe. And then there's another sticker of a tiger character who's holding the same axe. And then it's got this little biographical information on the back of the sticker that tells you about them. And what the main character realizes is that beneath all of these stupid Pokemon stickers, there is this like interconnected world of all of this stuff. And it's like, oh my God, they were the king, and then this person killed them and took their axe, and then they married the princess, and then the princess became this person, and then they got imprisoned, but then it was actually, they were a disguise, and you find that they have the same body, but their head is with the mask on, and it's all this stuff. So he goes kind of like crazy, and he holds himself up in his room, and he's got this like crazy whiteboard, he's putting all the notes together, he's drawing all the lines, and they're solving the mystery of this thing. And it is ultimately about, and I find that the way that they're able to execute this is actually really well done. It's about how the mass of information, the fact that all of this stuff is connected to each other, makes something seem meaningful, deep, and coherent.
Yeah.
The fact that there are all of this connects to this, and to this, and to this, and to understand this moment, you really have to understand these 12 other things. It is what I refer to in this essay as the thickening of evidence, where if you were to interrogate any one piece of evidence, you would go, this is stupid and not meaningful, and it doesn't make me feel anything.
Yeah.
It is only when you accumulate the mass, when the evidence thickens, that you can convince yourself it was there all along. It was all planned. And the fact that it was all planned is what makes it feel so meaningful. And what that comic was about with the world of that stickers is pretty much exactly how I feel about this game. There is no appreciation of a moment that you can experience without kind of outsourcing its meaning to a million other things.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to get to the bottom of. This is people will see on my blog, this is much longer than I typically allow myself to write. Yeah, this one's for the heads. This is not for the normal people.
Yeah.
And part of my strategy in kind of demonstrating what I'm talking about to the audience is that I isolate a scene from Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and one from Xenoblade Chronicles 2 that occur at like similar points in the story and are asking for similar things. And I kind of tried my best in a close read way to show why the first game is successful to me and why the second game is like beyond unsuccessful. And I do this for a few scenes in the game, and I hope people will see what I mean. But even in writing this, I gotta tell you, it is so hard to get away from, you know what it's like. You know what the comments are gonna be.
Dude, this is the worst part about making anything, in my opinion, is you're like, dude, no one's gonna understand what I'm saying about this, and it's like so frustrating because it's like, I'm not like I just want you to come here with me, and you don't even have to agree, but like you can at the very least go like, oh, I see what you're saying.
It's a starting point. It's a starting point.
Yeah,
and I think like I'm going to, you're going to be able to hear my heart break from across the country in real time the second that there is a close read of a scene and I say this is why the scene is bad, and the retort is you just don't get it.
You just don't get it. Yeah.
You just don't get it. And it's because it's tough, man. I was there. I was there.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I played the whole game.
And it's also so tough. I hate that comment. Like, you don't get it. Because it's just like, what do you think I'm doing?
What do you think I'm doing?
Like, did you read the whole thing about it? Because like, I'm talking about how I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get it. And that's the thing. It's like, no, I understand everything that's going on, but do I feel? And that's I think the biggest challenge in writing about it to me is that I'm really trying to in my analysis get to,
oh my gosh,
and this is why it makes me feel. And I think I achieve it. I really do. There is a close read of some of the scenes I really do like from the first Xenoblade Chronicles game. Yeah. That I was kind of like writing why these scenes work. And in the middle of these paragraphs, you see me write this. I just kind of have these moments of like,
yes.
And I hope it comes across. So that's my
dude. The whole like no, I understand it. I get it. It just doesn't work. Is like it's the most frustrating thing because that's like my Ghost of Yote video. Everyone's like she actually trained with the samurai. So I'm like, I know. Oh, I know. It doesn't matter because it doesn't come across that way. It doesn't matter. Thanks for being here. Wait, when can we expect that?
I'm hoping to have it up by the end of the week.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm honestly fighting myself with whether or not I should include the Witch Watch thing in it because it was perfect, and I can just put the screenshots of the manga in the thing.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'm like, it's so good. I've actually been like wrestling with like, I think that it might need to be there. It might need to. It demonstrates in like a very casual way exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there you go. All right. Well, look forward to that. I'm excited to read it. Excited to see it.
Thank you.
We'll catch you next week. Bye.
Bye.